welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here, sharing in this space of growth, healing, and transformation. If you've already subscribed to Loving Everything, thank you for being a part of this beautiful community. Your support means so much, and together, we're creating a space where love in all its forms can be explored and embraced. As you listen to this episode, if it resonates with you, I invite you to like the video and share it with anyone who might benefit from the insights we're diving into today. These conversations are all about expanding our capacity to love ourselves, each other, and the world around us. And if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to explore my other episodes where we journey into love's deepest, most unconditional forms. Each one is an invitation to reconnect with the parts of yourself that are waiting to be seen, healed, and loved. So thank you for being here. Let's begin. All right. Hi, Collin.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for making the time and for sharing everything that you're willing to share with me. Like I said, offline, this is a vulnerable conversation. If there's anything that makes you uncomfortable, by all means, don't feel like you need to share. But I can't wait to share your story and your wisdom with everybody that is listening and watching. So I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you've built a life around helping others heal, but let's start with you. What cycles have you had to break in your own life?
What cycles?
Mm-hmm.
We're diving in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is a Christian mystic teacher that I like, Richard Rohr. I grew up in a evangelical Christian context, and I've had to sort of recalibrate my relationship to Christianity and find a spirituality that works for me. But he talks about sort of life stages being about construction, deconstruction, and then reconstruction. And so when you say, what are the cycles that I had to break, I think there was a necessary construction period of this is who you are and this is who you should be. And then when that stops working, or when you don't quite fit into that scaffolding, there is a natural and important deconstruction, which is sometimes difficult and painful and wonderful in different ways. And then hopefully now I'm in somewhat of a reconstruction. That's probably the ongoing part. And so it's a privilege to have gotten to do some of that early on. But yeah, I would say it was a lot of just messages about what's right and wrong and how the world should be and who people are. And I don't know, am I making sense?
Yes.
As a start?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, how would you describe your relationship with yourself as you've continued to evolve from your upbringing until now?
Yeah, this is such a good question, because I think, okay, right, so I work as a therapist, and I sometimes think, okay, what's my ultimate goal for people? And then I'll circle back to how does it relate to myself? And my hope is that through therapy or whatever sort of inner healing is that people can gain a better relationship to themselves, and maybe even become your own best friend. And I was working on being the captain of the inner critic team, just really, really hard on myself. And I think the survival strategy of being above reproach, so be harder on yourself than anyone else would ever be, so that you're safe and you're ready and you rise to the challenge. And so the recalibration has been, I hope, on a good day, one where I'm more friendly towards myself. And I can remember my own very first therapist, shout out to Rick, thanks to Rick, being like, Collin, I think the name of the game for you is realistic expectations.
Huh.
And it's held true. So, I mean, I was a teenager when he was saying that.
Do you think that was more from your upbringing and the modeling that you had with your family? Do you think like that was more ancestral, or do you feel like that really had a lot more to do with the influence of religion in your household?
I mean,
or a combination of both?
Yeah, I mean, probably a combination of both, right? It's probably never cut and dry. I mean, there are certainly people that grew up in the same context that I did that took a different survival strategy. So I don't know that it's universal, but I was good in school. I was like, things came somewhat easily. And so like, it was one that worked. It was just be perfect, like be really perfect. And that looked a lot of ways. And that was like defined by like the Christian ideals that I grew up in. And I sense that my parents also struggle with inner criticism too. Right? There is an ancestral component that as we've become like friends in adulthood, I'm so real close with my parents. I sense they put a lot of pressure on themselves too. So that's probably informed by their religious upbringing too. So like both but yeah, it's some of the cycles, like I guess you're talking about, is like a bit of an unlearning.
Yes.
Or like an unburdening. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was there. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't?
Well, it's
because
blind for a long time. It's a blind spot until someone, points it out and you're like, oh, right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. What are you naturally gifted in, and how have you reclaimed or redefined that gift over time?
What? So these are the types of things that like challenge that little inner criticism. So this is good because I kind of go, oh, okay, what am I good at naturally gifted in? Like if you asked me, okay, what are the things you'd like to improve? I'd be like, right there. Got it. I got my list. But if I think of things I'm naturally gifted in, well, like academically, I was strong. And so I think I'm just a good learner. Like I have a good memory. Naturally, I can receive teachings, even just like in an audio format. I can just kind of absorb information well. I'm good at learning languages.
Wow, lucky you.
I love language learning. That's a real passion and hobby and fun thing.
What languages do you speak?
Yeah, well, my undergrad was in French and Spanish. So those were like second and third languages. And then I speak a bit of Mandarin. I've studied that. I spent a little time in China. It's a hard one. Yeah, it's very punishing. Yeah. It's very hard, very hard. It's like my uncle who I was telling him about learning Chinese once. And he was like, that's hard. Why don't they just speak English? I was like, Uncle Gary, that's not how this works. Like, that is so not how this works. Anyway, but it's very hard.
Gary.
Uncle Gary. Yeah, but I mean, I get where he's coming from, especially the characters. A little bit of Italian. I've dabbled in a whole bunch of different things just for fun. Yeah.
Fun.
So that, yeah.
Have you traveled to all of the places that you speak?
I spent some time in Costa Rica for Spanish. Just like during undergrad, I got to travel some for the learning aspect. And then Nova Scotia, French-speaking Canada.
Really?
Very cool.
Very cool.
And I grew up in Louisiana. And so there's a Cajun influence. So the Cajuns come from Nova Scotia. So that was cool to go there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a weird history. But you listen, I would sort of hear some of the Canadians be like, oh, this sort of sounds like Louisiana French in a fun sort of way. My grandfather has some Cajun ancestry. So that's a cool connection. And then my dad's side of the family has some Italian. We spent some time in Italy. So like that kind of connects me to that sort of thing.
That's really cool. I bought an apartment in Sardinia, Italy this last summer.
I
love Italy.
Oh my gosh.
I love Italy.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah.
Italy. I'd say that for about
it's probably been 20 years at least. Yeah, the first time I went, I fell in love, and I was like, how can I figure out how to live here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
And that was
feeling.
pre-internet. So we were like, bed and breakfast? Like, I don't know.
How do we
like,
throw
what can
this
we do?
together?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that sentiment. It's beautiful, and the food and the culture and the
I love the people.
the language is that's been
Incredible.
a new hobby lately. Picking up some Italian, so
Do you learn through like an app? Do you learn through immersion? Like, how do you study it? How do you go about it?
I love a good what they call comprehensible input. So it's like
What's that?
basically it's like you're listening at a level that is understandable to you, or
So
there's
like a radio.
yeah,
like a radio
or sometimes
show
it's videos, but it's like, people say, "Oh, just watch a show." Well, like if you're a new learner, it's like all over your head.
Yeah.
So you're watching something that's like immersion style, but it's at a level that is comprehensible. So then you're just absorbing a lot at like a low level, and then you're just kind of slowly building. So I like that a lot. And then I have, different apps or things I'll use for vocabulary or like sort of speaking practice. But yeah, it's a lot of input. Yeah. And then parroting a bit, repetition.
Yeah.
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 And because you speak French and Spanish, Italian is like a cousin.
Oh my gosh, it
really
feels like
close.
in my brain, it's like if French and Spanish had a baby,
Yeah,
it would
exactly.
be Italian. And so, and that's what's hard about Chinese is like in Italian or any of these, you can kind of guess. You can kind of be like,
Yeah, I think it's like this.
oh, yeah, and then you kind of like Spanishify it or Italianify it. You can't do that in Chinese. Like there's no guessing. And in fact, you could even know what the word is and still get it wrong.
Well, you
just
have
with the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's just probably rote memorization, right?
There's a lot more just, memorizing. I mean, a lot of input too, because then you start to just have more that you can pull from. But yeah, but I do love it. I mean, then that comes pretty naturally. So that's a fun one.
It's such an ancient language too.
Yeah. It's
There's
good
a
too.
lot
It's
of
good to
history.
get out of our like European,
Yeah.
even just like alphabet system. Just kind of break your brain a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah. Did I answer that question?
I was just looking. Yeah, I mean, I asked you, how have you reclaimed or redefined that gift over time?
Well, the language gift has been pretty consistent. I don't know if there's been a lot of reclamation. Maybe there's been like a deepening in terms of like what it means to me, right? Connecting to family history or doing it more because I like it versus like, oh, I should do this. I have to do this. Like just to be able to be like, this is literally just for fun. There's no test coming, Collin. Like just do it because it's fun. So in some ways that's a reclamation, but yeah, maybe the overall passion for learning and like creativity and curiosity and these sorts of things. I think the learning that I'm still working on is just keeping it fun. Like, because I was good at it, and so I learned to do things very like well and somewhat rigidly. And then it's like, well, you're not in school anymore. Like, who cares? Like, just do the things for fun. And if you try it for a month and then your interest shifts, it's like, it's okay. So to soften the critic.
I love it. I see the theme.
You see the theme.
I
This
do.
is a big theme.
Yeah. Okay. What are you passionate about now that once felt impossible or unsafe to express?
Passionate about now that once felt unsafe to express. Well, I guess I'm lucky in that my family was pretty supportive of passions and interests. So that feels good. I don't feel super stifled in a lot of those sorts of ways. So I'm grateful for that. Like if I'm sort of struggling for an answer, then that maybe is a good sign, right? Because they let me do things that I was interested in. But I guess like probably the most honest answer is just like my sexuality. Because like being a gay person was like very not safe to express in that context. And so, like, yeah, I guess just like feeling passionate about trying to be more fully me, and being like, to be in Portland is such a gift because there are so many spaces where I was like, I never would have imagined being around even one other gay person, let alone like 10 of y'all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's like, there are moments I'll sort of sit back and look around and be like, oh, like even, the me of, 10 years ago would like have been like, I never could have imagined this. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So that feels special. So I try to have like little moments of gratitude of looking around, or even the ways that it's like a non-issue. That's so nice.
When did you move to Portland?
I've only been in Portland for a year and a half.
That's it?
That's all.
I forgot.
The accent's still strong.
Yeah.
You can still feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I would imagine that since you grew up there, it's not going to greatly fade.
No, and it'll come back. When I go home, it just like ratchets right back up.
Yeah.
No, only a year and a half. So yeah, I lived there for the first like real good long chunk of my life, even through undergrad, and then a couple of years in Austin, Texas.
Lived in Austin.
I lived in Austin. Yeah. That was my first like move to the big city.
Yeah.
And then Denver, Colorado, where I went to grad school.
Okay.
And then now I've been in Portland only like since January of last year.
And would you say that the LGBTQIA community plus, would you say that it's a larger or more open community here in Portland than even in Denver or Austin?
Yeah, or I'm not sure about like size or demographics, because there's definitely like in any large city, like it definitely felt like plenty of safe spaces.
Yeah.
But I think the like queerness is much more integrated throughout the whole city.
Huh.
In a way that like my gaydar is totally broken here. Totally broken here. Like the straight people look gay and the gay people look straight, and I just like don't know what's going on. Like I'll really confidently think, oh, he must be gay. Surely he's a gay man. And then like his like girlfriend and child will walk up. I'll be like, oh, and maybe he still is, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Versus even in Austin, which is still a very gay city, like the way that it's coded or sort of siloed off is a little more binary.
Okay.
Which has pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'm not like it's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know about like numbers, but just like the overall queerness of the city, the proportion is higher here for sure. Yeah, and then Denver is very chill and affirming. Yeah, but it's similar. Yeah, a little more pockets.
Like Austin.
Yeah.
Not to Portland. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What was it like growing up in your family?
That's a sweet question. What was it like growing up in my family? Well, we were like homebodies.
Oh, you were?
We were family people.
Did you go to school or were you homeschooled?
Went to school.
Okay.
Grew up in a little college town. Both my parents worked at the local university.
Cute.
I'm very grateful for that because even in like rural North Louisiana, we did get some culture. It was a very educated place. I think I may have alluded to at one point when we talked that it has the most PhDs per capita of anywhere in Louisiana or Texas.
Wow.
My little hometown. So it's only 20,000 people, but
really smart people.
Smart people, educated people in this little pocket.
You're so smart.
Maybe so, yeah. Around a lot of smart people. I soaked it up.
All that absorption.
Yeah, just listening. But I spent a lot of time on campus, right, with like just different events or cultural events. Or my closest friend growing up, she's like my sister. Shout out to Emily. She was adopted from China. Her dad was the director of the International Student Office, was around a lot of people from all different countries, cultures, backgrounds. So that was great. I mean, that's really the best that could be hoped for in a more rural Bible Belt kind of area. Anyhow, growing up in the family, we like, some people like their summers, it's like go to camp, go to archery, go to learn violin.
Yes.
You're always
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
That was not us. It was like, you're off school. Let's go to the pool. Let's hang out. Let's be at home. Like that, the home and the kitchen and the watching TV, there was a lot of just like sort of comfort in nesting. I'm probably the most extroverted I have one older sister and then both my parents. And even still, I'm kind of introverted by a lot of people's standards. So it was a quiet, we're good nappers. We could sleep on a Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Come from a long line of nappers.
Okay.
Yeah,
I came from a very opposite
Oh, really?
environment.
Okay.
Mhm.
You had more high energy folks?
Yeah. Everybody in my family is extroverted except for me.
Okay. So yeah,
They just drag me around.
Maybe that's why we connected. We have the like the mirror image.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I lived one street away from my grandparents, Gran and Papa, so my mom's parents, and my grandmother, who's since passed away. She passed away when I was in high school. Was kind of like the queen of the Baptist church, the local Baptist church. And almost every Sunday we'd go have lunch after church at Grant's house. And she would like somehow go to church and Bible study and have a whole pot roast ready by like noon.
Oh my God.
And then go sing at the nursing home after. And then
I was going to say, did she sing?
Yes, of course. Sang in the choir and all this. Just a real Southern matriarch. And
she sounds incredible.
Yeah, she was very cool, very smart. She was an English teacher for like 35 years. So that's where I get get out the red pen. You know, there's sort of that rigidity that's ancestral, like you said. But yeah, it was familial, and it was I'm very grateful for my parents, because I think a lot of people, right, especially when they come out, there's a rupture. And I just feel like they always chose me, and they always chose my sister too.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So because they totally didn't have to in that context.
Yeah.
And I've known a lot of people that's the case. So yeah, grateful for that. Yeah.
What messages did you receive about love, identity, and emotion as a child?
Love, identity, and emotion. Well, you'll probably notice about me that I'll look off in the distance as my gears are turning. I say this to my clients. I say like, okay, if I'm looking up, I'm just
thinking. My
gears are turning. And that also, I sometimes will like throw a point and then circle back. So stay on the train with me.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love, identity, and emotion. Well, okay. I feel, this is the theme of the podcast about love.
Mm-hmm.
I heard from, do you know Tara Brach?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where she got this or if it's hers, but she speaks about like a concept within Buddhist psychology, which is like the bird of enlightenment or liberation has two wings, truth and love. And you can't have one without the other. If you have truth without love, it's sort of maybe moralistic or punishing. And if you have love without truth, it's sort of loose and flowery and not super grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And regrettably, I think a lot of current day and probably historic evangelical Christianity, my experience of a lot of that was that it was a lot about denial and suppression and hate. And so I think some of the message, for no fault, like they're good people who were doing the best they could with the information they had. I really
of course,
don't blame the people.
Yeah.
Some of the messages I received, I think about, love, emotion, identity, were more based on those sorts of things. It's either like, this is who you are, or this is how you should be, or like that doesn't really exist, or like you can't trust your body, you can't trust your emotions, you can't trust yourself, you can only trust God's word, or as we're defining it.
Yeah.
So it was an untrustworthy education, and it was either like, la, 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 don't look over there, we don't talk about that thing, or if we do, it's bad.
Yeah.
And so the deconstruction, back to this, like that was the construction, has been one of being able to look at things more honestly. Like, this is here. This is part of me, these emotions and feelings and experiences. And how do we like love what is? Which I kind of think is
The goal.
the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself contains both the truth and the love. So
Yeah.
what's here?
Yeah.
What's the truth?
Yeah.
And then how do we love it?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that should be everyone's goal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's like that's what's liberating ultimately.
Yeah,
It's
that's
sort of
true
like-
freedom.
Yeah, when we're at war with what is, like, you're not going to get very far.
Right.
Because it's just like not the way it goes.
Yeah. Okay. If you could change one thing about how you were raised, what would it be?
Well, it feels idealistic because I don't know how it totally could have happened in that context. But just that there would be more trust of like people's inherent goodness.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I don't mean to circle all about Christianity, but it's what I was like raised in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I tend to think like that of all faiths kind of is the religion of being incarnated, because it's all about the Word became flesh, and right, like the Son of God is a man, and it's like that's the cool thing about it is like God enters material reality.
Yeah.
And yet there was such a distrust of like the body and the flesh and any of that. And it was kind of gross and scary.
Yeah.
And I think if there's anything I could have changed, it would be like that instead of starting in like the Genesis 3, like the fall of man, could we just have started at Genesis 1, which was like, it was good. I think that would have helped a lot of people.
What's one memory from your childhood that shaped you, but you've never shared publicly?
I had a pastor, or there was a pastor at the church I was going to, and every summer we would do they called it Weekend of the Cross. And it was like a service-oriented thing. We would go into the community and help repair houses and do yard work, or for people maybe with disabilities or lower income. And it was really just a really cool thing. I think it was like a known community event. And I was in middle school, and I was like, I was in the little dorm room where we would like stay for this weekend, and I was reading my Bible like a good little Christian boy. And the pastor kind of was like walking down the hall, and he peeked his head and he said, "You're so good." And that was so meaningful to me. And like, because that's all I wanted to hear. I was like, "You're so good." And, you know, of course, maybe that was meant, because you're reading the Bible and but the way he said it, it was like, it was not about what I was doing. It was just about like
Who you were.
who I was and who I was trying to become. And that was very sweet of me. It was such a small moment, but I'm
Really grateful for
really
it.
grateful. And I was very lucky to have a lot of, certainly, yes, Christian, but very positive, like mentor figures. Who, like, I was like not out at the time, so they didn't. I mean, if they knew, they weren't sharing, but they were still very like loving and supportive, and I sensed hope that they cared more about who I was. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. You kind of covered some of this, so hold on.
Sure. Well, per my upbringing, I can kind of skew a little preachy.
Oh, no, you're great.
So sometimes
You're doing
I
great.
ramble, but
Okay. Let's skip that. I have a list of questions.
okay, good stuff.
Okay, what were the core messages you internalized about shame, identity, and worth?
Core messages I internalized. I could take this a lot of different ways. There's a lot of ways I could go with this. Well, the thing that's coming immediately to mind is one of the ways, like I'll work backwards. I think one of the things that started to like crack this shell open was some exposure to the Enneagram. You ever get into the Enneagram?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. You might could guess, any of our, listeners out there who know it, that I'm a 1.
Uh-huh.
And that's about being the perfectionist or the improver or the reformer, different words for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the sort of central core fear is of being bad, evil, or corrupt. I'm just scared that I'm bad. And so the survival strategy, like I talked about, is like being good, being the good boy, being a good person, trying really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess similar to what I've said before, some of the internalized messages is that it's not inherent, this goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And like having it presented in like, I think a lot of people who like the Enneagram have had that experience too. If they like read the thing and they're like, oh, this is real. Like this is real. I didn't even know that this was a thing, but it is such a thing.
It's very much a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I've never had my psychology so well described on paper.
Yeah. It's fairly accurate.
I didn't know you could be scared of being bad, evil, or corrupt, but it informs every day of my life.
Yeah.
And so the messages associated with that were not necessarily explicit. I mean, it wasn't like a totally fire and brimstone upbringing. I mean, there was elements of that I was exposed to, but it was more implicit. And it was more, like I said, like your body's not totally trustworthy. Your sexuality is not trustworthy. Your emotions, we should kind of question those. Your thoughts, they could be, leading you astray, or that there's some sort of malevolent force out in the universe, devil-like figure that we're sort of in spiritual warfare against.
That might take over and
if we're not
corrupt you in some
careful,
way,
you're corruptible, and you might already be corrupted, and you're only saved by grace, and like you're really inherently not worthy, but like thank God that this Jesus guy came along and tidied it all up, which I tend to go like, well, I know, I think like the baseline is goodness and dignity. And the rest is just clouds over the top of it, clouds over the blue sky.
Yeah. Similar upbringing.
Yeah.
My mom was a Christian Scientist, and then I went to Christian school and was born again Christian. And I was the only child, though, that went to Christian school. My two sisters went to public school. They decided they were going to do things differently with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I saw you were nodding. It was like sometimes, especially in this part of the world, I'll bring up anything religious and it's just like totally blank stares because people have no context for it.
Oh no,
You're tracking some of these.
Oh yes,
teachings.
I went to Catholic high school, and so my two sisters are 5 and 6 years older than me.
Okay.
And so I was almost like their last try for getting it right.
We're gonna get this one right.
And so they were like, we're going to do things differently with you.
Interesting. Okay.
So they raised me very differently. And I'm the only child that went away to college, and I'm the only child that actually moved away from the family. And so I was given a lot of different choices, but I also was heavily influenced by my mom's wishes for what she thought my life should look like. So,
which were kind of backed in religion at that point.
Backed
for
in
her,
religion, and also, in a narcissistic type of way. I was just an extension of her dreams. So what she visualized for me. And so I was definitely a product of that. And
you
I
were
spent
a vessel of her vicarious wishes.
a vessel.
Okay.
Yeah, of all of her unfulfilled dreams, like being a cheerleader and things like that. And so
a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, and a lot of pressure to be successful in my family. Yeah, which influenced and informed almost all of my decisions, right? Including, who I married and because I was determined, similar to you, determined to do it right. Yeah, because my two sisters were made an example of what not to do, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, so there was like go a totally different direction.
Yes.
And that was like an active
Yeah.
or subconscious choice.
Both conscious, very conscious choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I made a decision at about 12. I was like,
not doing that.
Well, and I won't survive in my family.
This is how I learn love and safety.
Yeah, I have to leave. I have to get different influences than what's provided here. It was a very conscious decision.
Yeah, okay.
And then it was like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
That was kind of my teenage years of figuring out how to successfully leave my family with still their approval, which I was fairly unsuccessful at.
Sure. That's a tightrope walk.
Yeah. So I've spent most of my life, my adult life, estranged from my family because I moved out and moved away.
Wow.
And learn different things. And because I became more educated and, now I have different perspectives than they do. So they feel that I'm, trying to be better or talking down to them or,
So. Talk about a deconstruction and a reconstruction.
I'm a professional.
Yeah. You've got a whole remodel in the house.
That was, and it was intentional. I mean, I take the good. I'm very grateful for everything that I was given. And, I'm grateful for the relationships that I do still basically maintain. But, ultimately I am a complete reconstruction. And if you were to place my family near me, we look similar. I always look different, which is very interesting. And, we act very differently. A lot of people don't recognize that I'm from that family.
Like just energetically and mannerisms and things. It's
and just the grounding, different presence. And just different priorities, and a lot more healing around emotional reactivity. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I can relate to your religious upbringing. Yeah, because I was forced essentially to go to private school so that I would be a good person. And in doing so, I had a lot of incredible experiences like you did and influences and mentorship. And but it also was very informative of what religion became to me, because no matter where I went to school, essentially, I was doing something wrong. So like, before I wasn't in Christian school, I was kind of like a heathen. And then when I got to Christian school, like I had been saved. And then I was trying to save everyone around me. And then I went to Catholic school and they were like, oh, no. We know what's right. And they don't know what's right. Everyone's a Christian. And now you need to learn this. And so I just
could never get it right.
I could never get it right
because it was always redefined.
And I think my major breakthrough was world religions class, and then I was like, oh yes, okay, other people think differently than how I was raised to believe, and here's some confirmation that I'm not going to get inside my family. And
you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So it really expanded my perspective and then encouraged me to continue to educate myself in different ways. So. The saving others.
I don't know. Are we still doing that? I don't know.
I think we are, actually.
Yeah, if we've saved you, comment below. And I'm sorry, and you're welcome.
Hilarious. Okay. Good job bringing in the humor. Okay.
It's a good defense.
I think it's amazing. What did they say? Like comedians grew up with the most trauma in their family. They learned to be funny.
Keep it moving.
Gotta keep it light.
Keep it light.
Gotta keep it light.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I was curious too,
you can ask me
hearing what you were saying. When you were in those different religious settings, was it really congruent for you?
Oh, yeah.
It was like, this is it.
Oh, yeah.
I got this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, maybe not as much in Catholicism because at that point I was a teen and I was kind of like, okay, you guys, like, this whole mass thing seems, unproductive and a waste of my time in the middle of my Wednesday afternoon. Like I would rather be somewhere else right now, but okay, we'll do this. Yeah. So I wasn't distrustful necessarily, but I also I was definitely a skeptic in some ways at that point, because I didn't believe that everything could happen the way that it was proposed in the Bible. So I already was kind of like the person in religion class that was like, okay, so how did we fit all of the animals on the ark? Like,
the
how did that
biblical
happen?
literalism was not.
How did that happen? And they would like, tell me to have faith. And I was like, okay, that's the answer for everything. I get it.
Right.
Have faith. Yeah. So that wasn't always necessarily working, but
yes, right.
But yeah, the
principles
around it.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, this goes really deep all of a sudden.
Drop it down. Okay. Sitting the tea down.
Okay. Yeah. So, can you share what your experience has been like living with chronic suicidality?
Yeah. And for context,
yes,
when we met,
please.
I spoke about some of this, right? Yes. It wasn't just like, how did you know?
No, no.
I ask this to everyone. You must
this is just normal conversation.
You must be chronically suicidal.
Yeah.
Ask it again.
Okay. Can you share your experience, what your experience has been like living with chronic suicidality?
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful, that things have been pretty good for a while. Mm-hmm. So there was, probably a 3 or 4 year stretch there that it was pretty regular, pretty top of mind in different ways, but, largely passive sorts of ways. But yeah, if I kind of like go back into like what the feeling of that was or what the experience of that is, it's like you just feel trapped. Mm-hmm. And that's like a common experience, right? I mean, that's what working with any clients who express suicidality, which I hope has now given me a lot of empathy for. It's like, well, yeah, if you feel like the building's on fire, you're going to start looking out that window. Mm-hmm. It's just like natural for a lot of people. I know some people say, I've never ever considered that. And I am fascinated by those people.
I am too.
Like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, great.
And also, what was so different in your upbringing and environment that reinforced that sense of safety?
Right, when you see that with people. Yeah. Safety. Or that wasn't like that wasn't the escape route. Maybe I had others.
Yeah.
And maybe they're more adaptive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. There was a lot of comfort, too, in chronic suicidality, I have to say.
Talk to us about that.
So, like, okay, if you're on an airplane and you're chronically suicidal and there's turbulence, you're like, okay, if it goes down, like, whatever. I'm fine with that. Like, there's something protective because things don't hit you as much.
Huh.
Right? Because you're like, well, I don't really want to be here anyway. So,
okay.
If it all ends, then that's fine.
Okay.
But
I never saw it that way, but yeah.
The payoff is like, obviously it's like not a net benefit, but there were like fringe benefits of it. I tend to think our brain's always trying to protect us.
Yeah.
So like the sort of suicidal impulse is, I've since come to find out that often when that happens, I think the general sense is like, okay, maybe something does need to die, but it's not you. So it's some...
I've heard Gabor Mate talk that way.
Oh, a similar thing. Okay, I'm in good company.
Yeah.
Or maybe I took it from him. I can't remember. But,
no, not necessarily. I'm just saying that reminds me of something he would say.
Yeah, because it's like maybe it's an expectation or a life circumstance or a relationship or something that does need to die or change.
Yeah.
Almost like the death card in the tarot, right? It's
exactly.
like change.
Yep.
Change.
Yeah, evolution.
Yeah, evolution. But for me, and I think suicidality can look different for a lot of people. For some people, it's sort of like loneliness and emptiness. And I was lucky to have enough sort of social connections or supportive enough family that like you there are people.
Mm-hmm.
How distant they feel is sometimes through the fog. But the strongest feeling for me was burdensomeness. Was that like I must just be a burden. And it's that self-hatred.
Yep.
So this all sort of tracks, right, with the one-ishness or the inner critic kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the more pervasive side of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can relate.
Yeah.
What did the turning point or even the pause point in that cycle look like?
It was actually pretty stark in that I had a really life-changing experience with ketamine therapy. Yeah. Well,
So that worked for you.
oh, yeah. It was like 2 or 3 sessions, and it was like
you went to a clinic.
intravenous ketamine.
Yeah.
Hook you up.
Yeah.
It's not guided. You
Yeah.
just put in your music, and then you just go.
Yeah.
And I had enough sort of chronic suicidality up until that point that my psychiatrist at the time was like, I really would recommend this, or we're going to be on another real hard cocktail of things. And I was like, okay, we might as well. And it was really, I would say, second or third session, not
Bam.
suicidal.
Wow. I've heard that for other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've talked to a lot of people about this. I was talking to a friend recently about it. She's like, why do you think that is? And I don't want to get into all the like neurochemistry, but
Definitely neurochemistry.
I think, yeah, some anti-inflammatory process and some amount of neuroplasticity that just helped me get out of the rut.
Yeah.
And I had been in enough therapy, I was doing enough therapy that it was like, I still have some depressive stuff to work through.
Yeah.
But I don't like live with the feeling of wishing I were dead.
Yeah.
So that was really a light switch, and very, very grateful. And have not since needed like more treatments, more intravenous treatments. It's kind of, I very much recommend it to people that have somewhat treatment resistant, or they have the chronic suicidality.
I agree. Yeah. It's very effective. I've tried the buckle in the cheek.
Okay.
But I've never done the intravenous.
Yeah, it's pretty potent.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not a real substance kind of guy. I'm pretty vanilla in a lot of ways, and especially at that time in my life, I had like not done anything.
Right.
So it was quite a dive in the deep end, straight into like
a
intravenous
lot of
ketamine.
trust. Yeah.
It was like, whoa.
A lot of trust in your therapist.
Yeah, but also like you don't know what you don't know
what you're gonna do.
So I was just like, okay. And
Yeah.
luckily it was pleasant enough that I kept coming back, and that it was helpful enough. 'Cause that was a real wild ride, but very powerful.
Good.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I highly recommend it for anybody who needs support. Yeah.
And there's nuance to it. I mean, like if there's like deep trauma and there's all this, like I wouldn't just like jump in.
Right.
Because it can be very like get into your stuff.
Oh, and it's also like I would say it's an accelerant. Like for me, it made everything more intense.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're really looking at stuff.
100%.
Yeah. You cannot keep the lid on it.
Yes. Right. So
it's like all there.
Like
yeah.
at that point in my life, I had probably had almost 10 years of therapy.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like.
Yeah.
Do some of that
Yeah, you
and
had
make
some
sure that you
framework.
can ground and like regulate and do all that. Because if it's
and
just
to help somebody integrate on the other side too. Yeah.
exactly.
You need somebody to walk you through all of the things that you just looked at as well.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Do it safety.
Disclaimers.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
generally, like, consider it. I think some people don't even know it's an option.
Well, and definitely I wasn't suggesting like go get it on the street and
go out
administer it yourself.
Yeah, go find some ketamine.
Yeah, figure it out. And it's all going to be rainbows and butterflies.
Everything will be better.
Totally, you'll be fine.
In whatever form or amount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's fairly vulnerable. So I appreciate that. You've answered that. What do you wish more people understood about living with suicidal ideation? I feel like you're going to have something really awesome to say about this.
I know, really, just like
No pressure.
blow the lid off of it. What do I wish more people knew?
Yeah. Or understood.
Just that it's protective. And that it is not an exception to the rule that like your brain is always trying to protect you.
Mm.
Like that if you can really, even if you can, I often do a lot of parts work with people.
Mm.
It's okay. The part of you that becomes suicidal, what is it good at? What is it trying to communicate? How is it trying to protect you? We don't necessarily have to have more fear of it than we would anxiety. Mm-hmm. Or anything, right? If we can just understand it, I guess that's the truth part, the truth and love, right? So you can just sort of shed some truth on it. I mean, I think that's kind of what therapy is about. Shed some truth on the thing, and then we hold it in love and compassion and non-judgment and acceptance. And then that's what heals people. Mm-hmm. So I would say, yeah, that it's protective.
Protecting you from the pain.
Protecting you from the pain. It gives you an escape route. Mm-hmm. It can mean a lot of things. It can make you, it can be a subtle way of trying to garner more support.
Yes.
Cry for help,
yep,
right?
Totally.
It can...
Or be seen in the world.
Be seen. Mm-hmm. It can, make you feel safer on airplanes. Right? Like, it can take the sting out of a lot of painful things in life.
Yes.
Because you're just like, okay, whatever. We're all going to die anyway. Yeah. Like you just start to, if you approach it with some curiosity.
Yeah.
Then you can get at the underlying need that it's communicating without necessarily indulging in how it thinks that need should be met.
Mm-hmm. What are you still learning to love about yourself?
Oh, a lot of things. So what am I still learning to love about myself? I guess. Well, it's funny you say that. So, just this morning, maybe I was trying to like get things rolling. Knowing for this podcast, I did like a metta practice, loving kindness.
I love loving kindness meditation.
Yeah, a little loving kindness meditation with Tara Brach. Listen on her podcast. Just maybe I was trying to like crank it up a little, and that was part of the reflection. It was like finding the good, and it was like, what do you like about yourself? What's the good that's already here? And like, I think the thing that came up for me in that was like my good intention and like my really trying hard and really wanting to do the right thing. And so it's like the thing I'm still trying to love about myself is like even the somewhat neuroticism or inner critic or whatever stuff is what makes me me. And it has this like good intention behind it.
Totally.
That's like the whole thing.
It's like the manager.
It's the manager.
Or the firefighter.
Exactly. Thank you, IFS. That's right. Shout out to our internal family systems people.
Parts work.
Hello. And it's so, like, you can't hate yourself into a version that you love. Mm-hmm. And I really kind of get squeamish around any sort of therapeutic modalities that focus on challenging the critic or banishing the critic or punishing the punisher or... I've tried it. Let me tell you.
Me too.
I've put in the hours.
Me too.
It doesn't work.
No,
and
it doesn't.
The only thing that works is
more love.
Loving the critic.
Me too. Yeah.
And seeing that even he is not a bad guy.
Yep.
And so, yeah, still loving about myself.
Your inner critic.
Yeah, and all the things that I would change... like ultimately reflect a sense of care and intention. He's just there because he cares. Mm-hmm.
He cares a lot, actually.
Cares a lot.
He takes his job really seriously.
Yeah, works very hard. Needs a vacation,
He
probably.
Does.
Yeah.
What have you had to unlearn about masculinity and queerness to come home to yourself?
Yeah. unlearn about masculinity and queerness? Ooh. My brain went in 3 different directions there. Which road will I take on this question? Well, base level, which it's so funny how like this to me feels very like rudimentary, but like myself 10 years ago would have needed to know this. Like I don't think this way anymore, but it's like
well, those are probably your clients now, right?
Yeah, or people in where I grew up sort of context, right? It's like that like this is not a pathology. The queerness specifically. This is not less ideal. This is not like oh, you are Collin, but you also just happen to be gay.
Yeah.
There is no version of you that doesn't have this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's like square one.
Full integration.
Because like in the context where I grew up, it was you struggle with same-sex attraction.
Mm-hmm.
That was the verbiage. So it's like there's this you, and then there's this like sort of temptation or sin that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't identity, it was behavior. So it's like, no, like this is not all of you, but it is a part of you, and it is inextricable from your experience of yourself, your experience of the world, which I'm sure there are people that are queer theorists or whatever that it's like, yeah, okay, that's like kindergarten level. You know what I mean?
Hey, not for you, it wasn't.
Right, yeah. And I think
that
for
was
most
like
people.
A PhD.
Yes, it was like, okay, that really has taken some important learning
Me
of like,
too.
it's not a lesser reality.
Yeah.
So that would be one unlearning thing. And then I guess maybe on the flip side is that I think, and I'm thinking of all my men that I work with, I actually find more of them are scared of their masculinity these days.
Tell me about that.
Well, there's gay, straight, bi, whoever, they're just worried about being a predator. And I totally get why that could be a concern. And I think it's a good thing overall in the culture that there's been light shined on that.
Been identified.
Yes, as a risk factor.
Yeah.
But
there's awareness around it.
Yes,
yeah.
but I would say...
But also compassion around it.
Yeah, and
I think we need to come to the compassion part.
And I think we need to understand that that masculinity in its pure form is not dangerous or bad.
It's awesome.
And it's in all of us, regardless of gender, I tend to think. In fact, I would say the truth and love, right? The truth part is sort of that masculine energy.
For sure.
It's like seeing with the eyes of wisdom, and then the love would be sort of that more internal feminine energy. And you kind of got to get both.
It's called being in balance.
Yeah, and
heart and mind.
I think so many men are taught to be scared and ashamed of that.
Well, and I think also in most recent culture, there's a tremendous amount of shame and blame and divide. And
I just feel, especially for my straight guys, because it's like they want the people that they are interested in, women, I think they get the impression like, I want a man that'll sweep me off my feet and be just a real gentleman, just like, really do that whole thing, but also like
talk about his feelings and
but also don't be a creep, don't approach me. So they're caught. They're like, I need to be confident and be like, I'm interested in you. You're really hot, fly, sexy, and beautiful. Do you want to go on a date? And that women, some want that because they want to feel desirable, but then the men feel if I do that, I'll be a creep. So they're just really caught. And so the flip side, I guess, at least, and bring it back to me, I don't want to like put words in their mouth, but is like that masculinity in its like less toxic form and its like sort of more true form. It's like just a force. It's actually quite beautiful. It's not
energy.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be dangerous.
Well, I mean, it's how I teach a program and I teach, core feelings, and we go through what each of the feelings are. And I'm always like, okay, so what is the gift of anger? Because anger isn't in its essence isn't bad or wrong, like we've been taught.
Totally.
Anger can be a powerful force
Yep.
of nature, as long as you're not punching through a wall every time it happens. You know,
Right.
it can be very productive.
Productive, protective, energizing, boundary setting.
Right. Like it's an advocate.
Yep.
And so
Justice-oriented.
Right. And to embrace that
Yeah.
and to recognize that it lives within us.
Yeah.
And then how am I using that energy in a way that isn't perpetuating harm
Yeah.
to others, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's complicated too, and I think for gay men, there's a complication which is like, well, probably a lot of complications, but like you sort of want to look like or be like the people you want to be with.
mm-hmm.
So that gets a little like challenging to navigate, because there is definitely a hyper masculine ideal within the gay culture that can be really sort of challenging in terms of like body image standards and beauty standards and where your worth and value and your identity comes from. I'm like definitely still sorting through all of that. But I think lately it's been helpful to realize like, yeah, to feel like a man and to be a man and to be interested in men is like great. You know, it's not bad or dangerous in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay.
How did cultural and religious messages about gender and sexuality impact your mental health?
Probably significantly. I mean, for all the ways that I've kind of named so far. The thing that helped me start undoing it was actually from Carl Rogers. Good old humanistic, person-centered therapy, Carl Rogers. The strange paradox is that the more I accept myself, the more I'm able to change. And I remember reading that as a teenager. And
really?
at this time in my life, I was actively trying to not be gay. I was like, if I can really just
Oh, you did have a period of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Long stretch. Really try to not let that happen.
Okay.
So in the budding of puberty, that's a gross word. I'm sorry, budding.
It is.
But
yeah.
here we are. As that was happening.
And puberty is kind of weird,
Yeah,
too.
that whole thing I just said was
Yeah.
gross, and I apologize.
It's okay. It's totally okay. It just brought us all back to adolescence immediately.
Oh, we all felt it. We all felt it. Yeah. And so when that was happening, there was a lot of active, don't do that. And so the weird paradoxical entry point for me was after reading that, I was like, if I really want to change this gay thing, then I need to accept it about myself. That's how I got into it. And I was like, okay, I have these feelings, I have these things. Okay, I'm not going to fight against them. Like, not night and day, but that was the unraveling. And then, like, plot twist, when you do that, you learn that it doesn't need to change anyway. So it was a little flip in my brain that helped me get out of it. You know, like where I gave up the fight. And I thought, okay, this is my best chance of not being gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it turns out, oh, okay, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to be gay.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, maybe there's nothing to change at all.
It feels better, doesn't it?
It seems easier.
It's a lot less work.
Yeah, turns out.
Yeah.
So.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
What helped you feel safe enough to embrace who you are?
A lot of good therapists. Great. That's probably why I'm a therapist. I loved the space of therapy, still do.
Don't you feel like we all become, well, I can't say we all, but for the most part, we become therapists. We become the therapist that we wish we had, or...
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is probably not a unique theory that I have, but I definitely have come to like, yes, I am the therapist I need for myself.
Yes, that too.
And I'm just grateful that other
people need that
benefit
too.
from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of therapy. I mean, really, truly loving parents. I mean, that really set me in a good direction
It
to
sounds
where,
like.
I grew up in the like largely Methodist context. So it was a United Methodist church at the time, which has since become divided, ironically, over the issue.
Interesting.
Sort of crumbled over the issue of gay marriage. And when that was all happening, my parents like left their church of 20 plus years because they
Wow.
were like, I don't want to go somewhere that wouldn't be supportive
Of
equally
my
to my son and daughter.
Wow.
So that's huge. I mean, I'm really, really grateful. That was a big deal.
That is a big deal.
So, yeah, those things helped me feel safe enough.
Let's see. Let me check in the time. Okay. Okay. How do you lead yourself when no one's watching?
How do I lead myself? Well, I think it starts by landing inside my body. So, like being present inside my skin. Like, okay, my feet are in my shoes. I feel my breath inside my chest and stomach. Like reorienting as a start. And then hopefully, ideally, that there's some level of friendship. Because I think that's my ultimate. That was sort of my last birthday. That was sort of my intention for the year, was like to be your own best friend. And I hope that'll probably be the one for the next birthday too. Like, and just an ongoing thing. But to lead myself, hopefully, out of that intention. But it takes remembering that you're here in this body and room and things.
Yeah. And empowered in your life and making the decisions that you're making. And
Yeah. So from a sense of presence, ideally. Yeah.
Let's see. How does your personal experience shape how you show up for clients and for others?
This is a good question because I had a supervisor once that talked about, and I don't know where she got this from, but it's held true, that different clients are going to need different levels of me in the room. So like for probably the vast majority of clients, and I have been this client, and it is like totally therapeutically acceptable, and it's like what people need from therapy, but it's what she calls a one-person psychology. So it is about the client, and you are a reflection in a mirror, and you're basically not there. I'd say that's the vast majority of clients. I think it's really helpful because how many relationships do we have that are that? Only your therapist, probably. Other clients, she calls it like a 1.5 person psychology. So you're offering maybe a bit of disclosure or a bit of yourself. It's a little more of you, right? So it's them 1, but it's 1.5. And then for the rare handful of clients, it's a 2-person psychology. So it's more of a feeling of like fellow travelers, co-journeyers. And it's not your therapy, but you're much more at ease to share as openly as I maybe would be on this podcast.
Right.
And so at any of those levels, like I feel like I am the facilitator of ideally a corrective experience. And so the way that I hope to come through is an appreciation for all the things that we've said of like, you can't, love yourself. You can't hate yourself into a version that you love. So how do I help foster a quality of like emotional safety and non-judgment and acceptance and a sense of curiosity and collaboration and all these sorts of things, right? Just as from presence, even if it's one person, like even if I am basically just the room, how do I facilitate an environment that has those qualities? And then as it gets like progressively more disclosure or collaborative, then it's when and how it's appropriate, sometimes hard to say, bringing in elements of my own struggles and like things I've come to find and ways that have helped me out of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I'm a 2.
You like a 2-person. I know. You like a 2-person.
I do.
Yeah. And it's true. And there are clients that happens, but I think you'll find too, and probably already have, like, that's not what's therapeutic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and we have to, like, our job is pretty self-negating a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we sign up for that, you know, and I think that's great. And that's why it's time confined, because it would not work in other relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
What cycle do you most hope to help others break?
The cycle of self-hatred and being at war with themselves. And that's probably the thing I say most often to clients is your brain's always trying to protect you. I got that from a therapist, so thank him for that. Because it just shifts everything. So how do we look at this thing, whether it's parts work perspective or whatever? It's like, how do we look at this thing that you're struggling with and appreciate its strengths, appreciate its protective function?
Like
what is
the
it?
hangman in Tarot. You mentioned Tarot.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like,
how do I switch the perspective on this?
Yeah. And so that's, I think, the cycle I hope to most help people break is to stop the war.
The internal war.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't become an external war.
Yeah, because it just doesn't, like, it works a little, or it, like, can get you by for some amount of time.
Yeah.
You know? But, like, ultimately, or, like, it can help the symptoms sometimes. But I think ultimately, like, the deeper work that I think most people want to do, like, people say, oh, I want tips and techniques and I want these sorts of things, and they do, but, like, ultimately I think they want to come to a place where the internal mechanisms that drive their struggles, their symptoms, their anxiety, their depression, whatever, are healed.
Yeah.
And I just don't see a way around that. Like, I don't see doing that without it involving an appreciation for the inherent, like, dignity and goodness of you as an organism, even if you're not a spiritual person. Even if it's purely evolutionary for you, it's like, well, why would there be any non-survival mechanism here?
Yeah. I think what draws most people, at least this is my own perspective, to therapy or therapeutic approaches is the ability to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
Witnessed.
Yeah, I was reading just last night. There's a really good book called The Wise Heart by Jack Kornfield. He's a Buddhist psychologist I really admire.
I love him.
Yeah, great. And he quotes Ajahn Chah, who's one of his teachers from monasteries in Thailand. And it was like the takeaway I got was, like, it can only be witnessed. Meaning, like, you can't really control it or possess it or hold on to it, like, in terms of life and our identity and our emotions and our things, like this sort of idea of the non-self, this sort of observer self. It's like, it can only really be witnessed. And I think that therapy is, like, such a powerful experience of that if we can do our job as therapists. It's like we think we're going to get in there and, like, change it and, like, really pull the strings. But and I think a big part of the process is that witnessing and hearing and validating and like you said, you can't like, the more you accept yourself, the more you're able to change. You can't start with the attempt to change.
Right. Because you just push it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're 90.
Optimistic. Love it.
What do you want to have stood for, done, and given in the world?
I'll say what's coming to me now, knowing like
That'll change.
probably could change.
Yeah.
Yeah, even by the time this comes out. I may watch this and go, different story.
Sorry, is this too much planning?
Like,
Too much planning ahead?
Yeah. No. Well, it's a good question because it's about like what really matters. What's our truest intention? What do we hope our legacy is?
Yes.
I think a lot of ones on the Enneagram, when they ask like what do you want on your gravestone? It's like, he tried his best. And I feel that. I mean, I feel that on some level. But ultimately, I think the thing I hope to stand for and the thing that like, it seems that my life is sort of trying to lead me in the direction of this lesson is remember who you truly are, which is the kind of the opening line of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Oh, you who are nobly born, you who are the sons and daughters of the awakened ones, remember who you truly are. Remember your true nature.
That's beautiful.
And I think it's about making peace with your body and having a body. And being in a body.
Yes.
Like it is not a spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
We don't just get to float away. I think I often felt in the religious context that like I should have been an angel and like being a human was bad and wrong and dirty and like somehow subpar.
Yeah.
And that this whole meat suit was just like
something to be ashamed.
Something to be ashamed of, something to fight against, something like can't wait till this is over so we can get on to the real party.
To the real.
And it's like, no, I hope by 90 that there's a sense of like being able to be like, we talk about languages, so incarnated, like carne, meat, in the flesh and the meat of it all.
Yeah.
To be a body, to have a flesh. I think I would love to feel like, to live an embodied life that has some authentic awareness of like who you truly are and help people
help
find
others
that too.
find that.
See that. See that.
If everyone listening took one small step towards breaking their own cycles and patterns, what would you want that step to be?
I would encourage people to ask, what am I holding against myself? Or what are things about myself that I don't like or that I'm ashamed of? And find, however small you can, some compassion for that. So to see how even your worst moments or mistakes, that you were doing the best you could with what you had. And that at worst it was acting out of ignorance or a reactivity or something that you inherited that was bigger than you. And to really ask, like, how is this trying to protect me? I just think it cuts through a lot of the fog. And probably why I'll keep asking that to my clients ad nauseum. Okay, Collin, I know. My brain's trying to protect me. I know. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I apologize. I have no idea why all of a sudden during the podcast we have construction of some sort.
Or is
happening.
it reconstruction?
Or maybe
Or is it deconstruction?
We will find out maybe when we go to the street or some other part of the building.
Stay tuned next week.
However, it's gotten really noisy and distracting
you can hear
all
a
of
little.
a sudden.
It's not us or anything. Any noises we're making or our bodies are making. No, it's the building.
So thank you so much for everything that you
pleasure.
shared, and I really
for
appreciate
having me.
you and getting to know you even more than I have. And thank you for everything that you shared.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're
It was a real pleasure. I'll share too, just if there's any clients out there, because it does feel vulnerable.
Oh,
If someone sees us, who knows?
Yeah.
if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a person too.
Well, we'll definitely have your contact information too.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
okay.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm truly grateful for your time and energy. If this conversation resonated with you or sparked any questions, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from each of you. Your insights, experiences, and curiosities always enrich this space. It's important to remember that trauma, often unseen and unacknowledged, can keep us from living fully in our joy. Through my intuitive healing process, I help release the weight of generational trauma, empowering you to reconnect with your true self and experience life in greater harmony. If you feel called to explore this deeper work, I invite you to book a one-on-one intuitive session or even embark on a personalized journey with a Phoenix Immersion, a 2-day retreat designed to support profound transformation. You can find all the details below. For those who've liked, subscribed, or left comments already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your engagement means everything, and I'm deeply grateful for the connection we're building in this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'm excited for all the healing and transformation we'll continue to explore together. As always, I'm forever grateful for you, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds next. Take care, and until next time.